do be mindful of that. The roads are pretty tricky out there this morning. Now, in terms of those winds, they are moderate to fresh. They're from a southwesterly direction, a little bit stronger on the coast as the day progresses, and valleys at about 3 to 11. Now, right across the day, we'll see showers move in across the southern half of the country. Slightly tapered back, slightly more on the intermittent side across southwestern regions, but nowhere really escaping that rain out there today. So if you are heading out and about, getting a spot of cardio in, do wrap up and get the rain gear on. Valleys of about 7 to 11, pardon me. And finally then tonight, it looks like that rain easing back through the northwest. Still plenty of showers crisscrossing the country, but we are expecting an improving picture as we work our way then into Wednesday morning. Overnight lows there on average about 2 to 6, but falling back to -2 to 2 degrees across northern areas. That's your weather for now. We'll catch you again live at 8:30.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The quote devil's always got one hell of a quote.
Time now to take a look at this morning's papers, starting with the Irish Times. They've gone with rollout of vaccine comes under growing scrutiny. According to figures obtained by the Irish Times, hospitals in Cork, Kerry and Waterford account for a disproportionately large number of COVID-19 vaccines administered so far. Doubt cast on schools reopening after angry backlash from teachers. That's front page of the Irish Independent. The paper reports that government plans to reopen schools for children with special needs are in chaos amidst a backlash from teachers and special needs assistants. The Irish Examiner have gone with anger over access to vaccine. The paper details how anger and confusion are increasing over the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine after it emerged that family members of staff at a second hospital and construction workers at a Kerry hospital received the vaccine ahead of frontline workers. Moving on to the tabloids, and the Daily Mail also leads with that story. Their headline, 10 hospital builders got the vaccine. The Irish Daily Mirror leads with vile and error and reports that 2 maternity hospitals were under fire last night after admitting to giving leftover vaccines to non-staff. The Sun is leading with nurse killed by COVID at 34. The paper carries a photo of the deceased husband and dad of one Salson saviour, whose devastated friends have praised his good soul. Fancy a flutter is the front page of the Irish Daily Star. The paper reports that Gardaí believe they have rumbled a sophisticated betting scam after they arrested a man flying a drone over a racecourse. And the Herald has gone with abuse victims burning anger. The paper reveals that a victim of clerical child sex abuse who caused €100,000 worth of damage to a Dublin church has been given a fully suspended sentence. Now let's over to Tommy in the kitchen.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, Siobhan, I'm back here with Siobhan again to talk about your chicken parmesan you're going to be cooking for us later on. But let's talk about your website, mummycooks.com. It's about preparing people. I suppose it's difficult for everybody at the minute. But what would be your advice? What feedback have you heard from a lot of mums at the moment?
Yeah, so I guess it's just not possible really to have a healthy meal and snacks and breakfast on the table every day, day after day, without a bit of batch cooking. So everyone's talking about it at the moment, but I really think it's key to having that, to having the healthy food.
So batch cooking in terms of, say, like the tomato sauce here,
exactly.
Or what other things could you batch cook?
There's nothing worse than batch cooking something that the kids hate and won't eat.
Yeah, well, that's what happens in our house. So we spend a fortune making all this. It's in all these Tupperware in the freezer, and we take it out, defrost it, no one eats it.
No, obviously, we want to change it up every week, so let that be like your tester meal during the week. But with batch cook things like bolognese. All kids love bolognese. What I do with my bolognese then is I either have it, with pasta, or I can make a lasagna out of it as well. So you can change it up. You don't have to have the same meal every week. And then I also do a chicken meal as well. So I use my slow cooker. Slow cooker is amazing for batch cooking, 'cause you get that big, massive pot. You can start it off in the morning, head off for a walk, and come back and you have a lovely meal, and then you can freeze some as well. So
easy as that.
Yes.
OK, thank you, Siobhan. Looking forward to this later. I'm starving. Now, after the break, Lord Peter Hain joins us to chat about the major role sport played in ending apartheid in South Africa.
You're not getting this back.
What is it? It's the Lenore Dream Team. Just condition as usual, boost with the matching scent, and go.
It's just too good.
Download My Life, the app that inspires you to embrace life's changes and gives you a single health score for your body, mind and lifestyle. We know Irish Life. We are Irish Life.
Seems like everything is getting thinner. But my Blood Elite pad, I thought it had to be thick to protect, but not anymore.
Because Always Discreet is made differently. Inside, it quickly turns liquid to gel and locks it away. For strong protection, in a pad I barely feel. Always Discreet.
What is it that thousands of women find hard to talk about?
I wet myself.
Feel a little trickle. Whoosh.
I'm a comedian. Peeing myself is kind of an occupational hazard.
Always Discreet. Let's talk about leaky bladders.
We all look at the same world, but we all look at it in a different way. Some see navigation. We see a new path. Some see a new light. We see a new vision. Some see what's there. We see beyond.
Breastfeeding provides your baby with the best start in life. Inspired by 40 years of breast milk research, Aptamil Follow-On Milk contains vitamin D to help support their immune system. If you choose to move on, trust Ireland's #1 brand for follow-on milks. And now, introducing new Aptamil Organic Follow-On Milk.
As temperatures drop, Ireland's homeless desperately need your help. COVID restrictions means less access to dry clothes and a warm place to rest. But just €4 from you will provide hot meals and a change of clothes. Please help Ireland's homeless and give as little as €4. Text WARM to 57666 to donate by phone. Please text WARM to 57666 now.
Rich tomato sauce prepared every single day. The godmother never compromises. Goodfellas Pizza, made with respect.
Let today be a good day. Let the shutters up and the customers in. Let the staff know they're valued. I couldn't do it without them. Let me know when to pull back and when to push on. Let the kids know I'll be home for bedtime. Right, let's take that risk. Let's really go for it now. Okay, let's get to work.
At AIB, we see brave and we back it with cash flow solutions tailored to your business needs. Talk to our teams today.
Ultra, it works miracles. Flash, Ultra, cleans up the impossible.
Now, 50 years ago, Lord Peter Hain helped organise the Stop the 70 tour, which saw protesters invade rugby pitches, cricket grounds and tennis courts to stop white-only teams touring from apartheid South Africa. The campaign brought about the cancellation of tours and lead the way for white South Africa's expulsion from the Olympics at the end of apartheid sport altogether.
Yes, together with fellow anti-apartheid activist Andre Odendaal, Lord Peter Hain has outlined the role sport played in ending apartheid in their new book, Pitch Battles, Sport, Racism and Resistance. And we're delighted to say Lord Peter Hain joins us to tell us more. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning, Peter.
Morning to you both. Good to see you again, Tommy.
Yes, and likewise. And finally, I've got that apartheid word out again. But yes, we saw each other over in Wales back when I was playing against the Ospreys. You were, of course, working over there. So, yeah, good to catch up again.
You're playing for the best club side in the world, Ospreys.
Listen, you're on Irish television now, Peter, so behave yourself. Watch what you say.
Peter, can I start off when you were growing up in South Africa and just being a little kid? What was the day-to-day experience of witnessing apartheid in action in terms of hanging out with your pals? What was it like day-to-day for you as a kid?
Well, if we're talking about sport, I could not play rugby or football or cricket as I did against or with anybody who didn't have a white skin. That was the law of the land. School sport was segregated, club sport was segregated, provincial sport and national sport. You could only play for your country you could only be a Springbok rugby player if you were white. And there was the head of South African rugby at the time, a man called Dani Craven, said, "Over my dead body, will there ever be a black Springbok?" So the sports system, life, my mum and dad, who were anti-apartheid activists, born in South Africa, very brave, alone amongst their relatives and friends, joined the anti-apartheid struggle of led by Nelson Mandela. And one of my earliest memories was of them being jailed, being woken up as an 11-year-old, and they were jailed. They were never charged. They were just put inside for 2 weeks for trying to distribute a leaflet, something that in Ireland or Britain would be regarded as normal political activity. So it was a very unusual childhood, and anti-apartheid politics was in my blood, but sport, I was mad on sport and really, really keen, as frankly I still am.
Yeah, absolutely. Sport, a huge part of your life and so many people's lives. But you were the founder of the Stop the 70 tour campaign. How did that come about? And I'm sure you were not a popular man.
Well, no, I was a bit of a hate figure in 1969-70. I was just 19 when I was propelled into the leadership of this campaign to stop the Springbok tour of 1969-70. And it had a match in Dublin at the old Lansdowne Road, a huge demonstration led and organised by Carter Osmal and Louise Osmal, who were anti-apartheid activists in South Africa, in Dublin at the time. And Carter, of course, subsequently became a South African minister in Nelson Mandela's government. But there were demonstrations throughout the 25-match tour that the Springboks played, and that paved the way. And what we did was we ran on the pitch, we stopped the matches, sat down non-violently, and were dragged off. We demonstrated outside, we laid siege to the team's hotel. On one occasion in the night before the Twickenham match against England, and you'll appreciate this being an Irish rugby player, Tommy, and we had a demonstrator a pretty young woman who went round in the middle of the night, found out the rooms the Springboks were staying in, and gummed up the door locks with solidifying agent, so they couldn't get out of their doors to come down for breakfast and prepare for the match on the morning of the match. Then we had an activist dressed smartly in a suit jump on the team's coach and drive it away with half of the team on it already.
Wow.
And crash it and then chain him. So there's all that kind of thing going on. And it was the level of protest that then built up momentum to stop the 1970 cricket tour, which was our objective. And white South Africa never toured again at cricket or rugby until after Nelson Mandela came out of prison and until apartheid was abolished in sport as well. So that, just to finish the story, so as you'll recall, in November 2019, just over a year ago, a black Springbok captain, one of the best forwards in the world, Siya Kolisi, lifted the World Cup in that famous victory over England. And that would have been impossible when I was demonstrating 50 years ago. And it was, it was to give everybody a chance, regardless of colour of skin. Rugby and sport played on merit, as it should be, not on race, that we were campaigning. And it was lovely to see the Springbok victory fulfilling that objective.
Yeah, it was such an incredible moment seeing Siya Kolisi lift that World Cup trophy, because we all remember back to whenever Nelson Mandela handed the trophy over to Pienaar back in South Africa all those years ago. But people in South Africa spoke how this was even more special to have a black player lifting that trophy, and given where he'd come from the slums in South Africa through such a difficult time through racism, but to get to the very top, and he's doing incredible work all over the world as well from that.
Yes, and of course there were half a dozen of his black Springbok compatriots, also from poverty-stricken townships, who'd been plucked out of that poverty and gone to elite schools like you have in Ireland to be trained and groomed and fed properly. Kolisi had never had a proper meal a day.
Yeah.
His main objective was not to play rugby; it was to try and feed himself as a boy. And he and his colleagues in that fantastic Springbok team that lifted the World Cup, half of them black, and dazzling performers on wingers, forwards, led by Kolisi, in a mixed team. And that was, we were accused by Willie John McBride and others of the famous Irish captain of that era of bringing politics into sport. But actually, it was the South African apartheid government that stopped me playing as a schoolboy against anybody who didn't have a white skin, or with anybody who didn't have a white skin, and stopped the Khaleesi's of that era representing their country. So they were bringing politics into sport. We were trying to take it out and have sport organized on the basis that it always should be, when if you're good enough, you can play, and if you're not, you don't get selected. It's nothing to do with your color of your skin or your religion.
And Peter, do you think the likes of, current day sports people, when we see the likes of Lewis Hamilton taking the knee, do you think it still has an impact in terms of what we've seen over the last year with the Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, I thought Lewis Hamilton, for whom, who's the biggest sporting star on the British stage, global sporting star, giving the Black Power salute, taking the knee on the Formula One grid, and the Formula One backing him in that, and his own Mercedes Formula One team doing the same. And then you get Megan Rapinoe, the American women's football captain, speaking out too, and footballers like Raheem Sterling are doing the same. This would not have happened, I don't think, even in your era, Tommy, when you were playing for Ireland and the Ospreys and so on at the top of your game. I think sports stars would have been discouraged from expressing their views on the moral issues, the social issues, whether it was racism or another form of injustice of that era. So it's a relatively new thing, and I admire it, because I think that sports people can't divorce themselves from life any more than the rest of us can. And really, that's what my book Pitch Battles is about. It tells the story of the campaign against apartheid in sport, but it also explains the whole history of discrimination against women, for example, in sport. It's a relatively new phenomenon that women's soccer players, women's rugby players, women athletes have got the prominence that they are beginning slowly to achieve, though still worse paid as professionals and so on. So
and there is such
that whole story.
There is such a platform that sports people have nowadays. The core of it is the
anti-apartheid story, but there are wider issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Peter, I have to ask you, as a former Secretary of State of Northern Ireland, what's your opinion on how Brexit is going to impact in Northern Ireland and the UK? Of course, we're seeing this border potentially in the Irish Sea. What's your take on that?
Well, Brexit was always going to be a disaster for Northern Ireland and the island of Ireland. There was no other way it could come out when Boris Johnson